Next on Worcester News Tonight, one person is transported to the hospital after a fire breaks out at a home in Worcester. Plus, a substation in Worcester is having success in its first 3 months, reducing crime around Union Station. Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Anna Botari. One person has been transported to the hospital tonight and several others are displaced after flames broke out at a home in Worcester. Firefighters responded to the fire on Oberlin Street just before 8 p.m. tonight. Our crews were on scene as heavy smoke was pouring out of the 3rd floor of the building. Firefighters worked for more than an hour to put out the fire. According to the Worcester Fire Department, one resident of the building was taken to the hospital. No word on the extent of those injuries. Firefighters can face a higher risk for cancer than the general public. A Central Massachusetts nonprofit is working to raise awareness to make sure first responders can protect themselves from the disease or detect it early on. Our Rosalind Flaherty has the story.
Firefighters put their lives on the line every day for others, but at the same time could be exposing themselves to harmful chemicals.
Studies are showing firefighters are at increased risk for getting a cancer diagnosis.
1540 Connections says firefighters have a 14% higher risk of dying from cancer. The Westborough-based nonprofit is trying to change those statistics by educating people how to detect cancer early. Tuesday, they brought their information to the Worcester Fire Department.
It's good for people to know what they need to be looking for, how to pay attention to signs their body is giving them, and how to act.
The fire department has already taken steps to protect their own, like using wipes on their skin and washing gear right after fighting a fire. Fire Lieutenant Robert Judge has seen the harsh reality firsthand.
I actually worked with a member here a few years ago that actually died of cancer. And he still was an active member on the job.
He hopes by educating the department with programs like 1540 Connection and being a role model to others, they can decrease their risks.
We have a lot of new people coming on to the job now that if they see me putting my mask on and washing my gear, hopefully we can change that culture.
Rosalind Flaherty, Worcester News Tonight.
A police investigation has led to the arrest of 2 people for heroin and Xanax distribution in the city. According to Worcester Police, the Vice Squad have received anonymous complaints about drugs being sold out of 38 Dell Ave Apartment 1. Police have arrested 34-year-old Tiffany Flynn of the Dell Avenue apartment and 28-year-old Roger Bergeron after police say they witnessed them making a transaction out of their car. Police say through a conversation, they discovered the man who approached the car had just purchased heroin and several Xanax pills. Flynn and Bergeron are facing multiple charges, including distribution of Class A substance and distribution of Class E substance. The first 3 months of police monitoring Union Station around the clock has been successful at decreasing criminal activity in the area. According to the Worcester Police Department, Lieutenant Sean Murtha says the number of calls for service have gone down and reports from people who regularly commute have reported a transformed atmosphere. According to the Telegram, since March, there have been 23 calls for service, which is down 34 calls this time last year. There have been 33 arrests, which is up 19, and there have been 234 patrol-initiated responses, which is also up significantly from last year.
Initiate contact, they create their own incident number, so it can look like activity is going up when we have officers there all the time, because every time they call out, it counts as something, whereas if they're not there, it's only if somebody else calls. But based on what people are saying and based on the environment that I've experienced over there, there's been a tremendous difference in the overall feeling of the place.
Lieutenant Murtha says they will continue to advance the substation idea, opening up a storefront this summer and adding more officers to patrol the area. Old milestone markers across the state's highways are restored from Boston to Worcester. Mass DOT announced Tuesday they completed the milestone marker preservation project. 29 markers, some dating back to the early 1700s, have been cleaned, repaired, or reset on foundations. According to Mass DOT, the colonial-era artifacts are listed in the National Register of Historic Places. Records indicate the earliest markers were installed in Boston, Brighton, and Brookline in 1729. More than a dozen local organizations are chosen by the Greater Worcester Community Foundation as the Fallon, Ornda, Health Fund recipients. $185,000 will be distributed among 16 groups to help improve access to health care in Worcester. The foundation says the purpose of the funds is to help advance projects increasing access to health care, health promotion services.
We are seeing what good nonprofits are trying to do and the help that private philanthropy can do. Most of these nonprofits also receive monies from state or public sources, federal government sources that are very important. And so the role that private funding can give is so gratifying to see.
The foundation says several different groups applied for the fund. Only 16 were chosen. Organizations can apply again for next year. Raising awareness of the issues military caregivers confront every day. It's the goal of Hidden Heroes. Grant money from the organization will allow a local nonprofit to help veterans and their families. Our Brittany Schaefer has more.
It's huge for a small nonprofit like myself.
Project New Hope putting the spotlight on Worcester after being selected as one of 13 recipients of a nationwide grant.
I think it draws a lot of attention to Worcester, Mass. When that call came, that email call says, "You're one of the 13. Wow.
The Veteran Services nonprofit is a winner of the 2018 Hidden Heroes Fund, sponsored by the Elizabeth Dole Foundation. President Bill Moore says the $10,000 grant is going to make a big difference.
As a small nonprofit, we don't have big budgets and big payrolls. We have 4 part-time staff, 10 hours they work a week, and the rest are all volunteers.
2-year volunteer David Kendrick says Project New Hope is more than deserving of this funding.
I love the work being done here. I've looked at other veteran organizations, and there's no comparison.
Moore says it was their free military members and family retreats which set them apart from the hundreds of other applicants. He says this grant will be used towards their caregivers retreat in Maine.
Us as military members serve, our families also serve too. And then when we get wounded or we get hurt in military service and then we come home, our spouses are taking care of us on top of all their other duties. I think it's very important to say, hey, thank you very much for what you're doing. It's not going unnoticed, because I'd be lost without my wife.
The Caregivers Retreat is in July. The organization also has retreats for PTSD, military families, and women veterans. Brittany Schaefer, Worcester News Tonight.
Are you up for a challenge? If so, you're in luck. An escape room is coming to the Westborough Public Library this summer. The meeting room at the library will be transformed into a music studio, and the group participating will be locked in the room until they complete a set of tasks. Jen McGrath says this will be their 3rd time they've done an escape room challenge, and says they're gaining popularity.
Sometimes you're working to get out, sometimes you're working to put something together. It's a goal, and you usually have about an hour to do it. I think it's just the idea of you beating the clock, you're working together, you have a goal, and you accomplish something. You feel like successful when you get out, like, oh, yay, we did it.
The escape room will be on various days in July. You can sign up by calling the library and asking for Jen McGrath.